Hello, everybody. This is Training Without Conflict podcast number 51. Before we get going, I really want to make you think about subscribing, liking, and sharing the podcast. Otherwise, there is no point of doing it if you don't like it. If you like it, then subscribe and like. Having said that, today we have a very interesting guest, somebody that is responsible to me taking on another dog, another very, very special dog, which we're going to end up talking about. I'm 100% positive. Jim Bradley, welcome to Training Without Conflict podcast. And
Thank you, Ivan.
give me, to tell people a little bit about yourself, as usual, how we start the podcast. I know dogs is how we connected, but what is your story? Because I actually don't think I know the story.
All right. The story is I am relatively new into the dog world, going back maybe 7 years ago or so. I was the typical terrible dog owner. I had a lab mixed dog that was overwhelming me. Somehow I ended up with another one, a border collie whippet mix, and I was absolutely clueless as to what to do with these dogs. I was the quintessential bad dog owner. When I talk about that as we sort of move forward and what's happening in the rescue world, I'm not too far removed from it. So I kind of remember what it's like to be, not the best dog owner. So I began researching how to train dogs. And I did it the way most people, looking through YouTube and, how to teach a dog to sit and down. And everybody that I saw on YouTube had a Malinois. Now, I'd never heard of a Malinois before at that time. So again, we're going back 7 years ago. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. What is this dog? Now, I couldn't handle the two dogs I had. Now, for what it's worth, I did learn a, a good amount about training through YouTube and through, uh, you know,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
all
bit.
the social media,
Yeah,
it can
the same.
definitely
Yeah. So,
jumpstart.
so I got, so anyway, I trained the two dogs I had. As far as I was concerned, I had done okay. Looking back now, I'm embarrassed at a lot of what I did, how I did it. Um, but I thought I knew how to train a dog a little bit, and I said I'm going to get one of these Malinois. So I went out to the American Belgian Malinois Rescue, and I look back in hindsight. They went to their friends, whatever, and I couldn't get a dog. I kept putting in for a dog, didn't get the dog. I would go to a shelter. I'd say, "There's a dog here. Let me get this dog." And they would get the dog, and it would go to somebody else. I was a little frustrated at the whole thing. Now, in hindsight, knowing what I know now, I 100% understand what was going on, but I didn't understand. As I decided, okay, instead of going through a let me go find my own Malinois. So I pulled up something called Pet Harbor. It was like Pet Harbor or something, petharbor.com, where you can search a breed at any shelter or rescue and pull it up. So I pulled up a list of Malinois, and there was one within a couple of hours of me. And I went and I saw the dog, fell in love with it, got that dog. Here I had a Malinois, I thought. It wasn't anything like a Malinois. But I was perfect. The dog was perfect, the easiest dog you could ever have. So I had a Malinois. I could train a dog, and I was an expert in Malinois. And I would later learn how much I wasn't. I just happened to have some sort of a show line, perfect. And she's sitting right here, right now. I just like the perfect show line, easiest Malinois you could ever have. And anyway, So that sort of got me involved in the world, and I thought I knew Malinois. I had one. Anyway, another one shows up at a shelter so now I'd already been researching, finding one at the shelter. I'm getting one of these dogs, so I'm on every list. And anyway, one shows up at Miami-Dade. So I go down and get the dog. The dog was adopted. Well, really, because I felt sorry for the dog, and I had one look just like her, this uh, sandy color or whatever it is, looked just like her. So I went and but I'm going to get that dog and help that dog and help it find a home. And then I contacted, I think Mad Rescue at the Malinois and Dutch Shepherd Rescue at the time, and they were just starting. Some of them spun off from ABMR and started this rescue, which was new
What
at the
is
time.
the MBRR?
ABMR is the American Belgian Malinois
Aha.
Rescue. American Belgian Malinois Rescue, excuse me. All right, so that's ABMR. That's probably the largest Malinois rescue. And now I say behind it you have the Malinois and Dutch Shepherd Rescue. Again, a lot of these are offshoots of ABMR. If you think there's conflict, if you think there's drama in the training world, enter the rescue world. You know, I think there's something about the passion for dogs that brings out a lot of drama, and people disagree with, you know, whatever. Anyway,
Well, I'm sure we actually will get to those things because they're very interesting and they're. I mean, I'm quite familiar, but it will be an interesting conversation, and people need to know what's going on in this world. For sure, we need to talk about it. But
sure,
go on, go
sure.
on.
But anyway, so that's sort of my beginning. So I began fostering that particular dog, and turns out that dog was an actual Malinois. So I was quickly over my head with that dog. But you make it work and you try and figure it out. And a lot of these rescues have a lot of resources and people you can talk to help you and walk you through it. Uh, as they were new, and I was down here in South Florida where we have Palm Beach, Broward County, Miami-Dade. We have some big shelters, and there are a lot of dogs here. So when you start out with a new organization, they need people to go down and evaluate dogs. So I would go down and evaluate a dog, and the problem is you don't have enough fosters. So I would go meet these dogs, and they would, well, we don't have a foster available. And I said, well, I just spent 20 minutes with this dog. I've got all this videotape with this dog. And you make a connection with these dogs when you go into the shelters. And to leave them there, I thought, well, what am I going to do? Now, I didn't trust my own opinion, so I made sure I took a lot of video at that time of the dogs. Always had video of these dogs. So when they couldn't take a dog, I said, okay, let me post this video. And I would put some corny music to it, and then I would post the video. And then it would get shared and shared and shared, and somebody would adopt the dog. I said, oh, that's interesting. I'd go evaluate another dog. Maybe they couldn't take it. They couldn't find a foster dropped out. I'd post that video and someone would see it and they'd go adopt the dog. So I thought, well, this is interesting. So I began to think, all right, let me try and develop followers who are interested in this breed because it's a unique breed. Um, and people should know what this breed of any dog, they should know this breed before they go get one. So my thought was, all right, I'm not a rescue. I can't do what a rescue does. A rescue is going to uh, e- evaluate the adopters. They're going to do home visits. I can't do that, but I can do better than what shelters do. And what a shelter does is you want a dog? Okay, great. Here you go. $50, walk out. But what I could do is I could find followers who are interested in the breed. At least they could say Belgian Malinois. And that's a start. And it's better than what's walking into the shelters today and walks in, sees this dog, looks like a little German Shepherd and gets the dog. Because one of the biggest problems is people go to a shelter, they adopt one of these dogs, they think they just have a cute shepherd, a smaller shepherd. And the return rate on these dogs is probably about 50%. And when you're down in Miami-Dade, you know, it's particularly bad for the return rates of these dogs. So I really wanted to do a little bit better than the shelters were doing. I could never do as good as Mad Rescue or the American Belgian Malinois Rescue or a lot of these rescues, but they're even then were overflowing. So I was always, viewed myself as sort of in the middle somewhere between the shelter and the rescues, just trying to help the dog, trying to get publicity. And the other thing that happened as I went to the shelters is I was shocked at how amazing the dogs I was seeing was. I had the same expectation as I began to go to the shelters that these dogs are broken, that there's something wrong with them. And and then I would go to a shelter and you might see three at a time, three in a day. And so you go down, you take the dog into the play area, you videotape the dog and you play with it. And here I was, like I'm relatively new to Malinois at that time, and I'd heard all about Malinois and how difficult they were. And I was taking these dogs out of their kennel with the help of the staff there and playing with them. I'm saying, does nobody see what is the dogs that are here? And that was another thing that's a reason to start to. I have to show people these dogs because if you look at just the pictures that they show on a website, they tell you nothing, zero. I would go and I would look at it every time. I would, I would see a picture of a dog that's in the shelter in Broward or Palm Beach, and I would immediately form some idea of what this dog is going to be. And it was never right. And I would go and I would meet these dogs and I would start playing with them. And that was just, to this day, it's one of the most fun things I like to do is to go to a shelter, take one of these dogs because these dogs have been sitting in the kennel, 20 nearly 24/7. They don't get out that much in any of these major shelters. So you get a chance to take the dog out to play with it. And and then I started, again, putting these videos out, putting the music, maybe starting to tell their stories a little bit. Oh, where did this dog come from? What's his story? Good, bad, whatever it is, tell the story. And then people started sharing them. And then sometimes, you know, early years ago, it wasn't as bad. So I could put a video and maybe it'd get 500 views, but a dog would get adopted. Today, it's much harder. It's adoptions have slowed, and I think there's a lot more Malinois today than there were 5 years ago.
Yeah, there is a lot of them. There is no question. There is a lot of them, and when I used to work late '90s at San Francisco in a shelter at the SPCA, and I mean, people didn't have a clue what that breed is. They were just not. They were not here. They were just individual dogs across the country. They just. I remember just the easiest way when somebody asked me what kind of dog my dog is to say that it's a mixed breed, so I can walk away. Because the moment you say the name, or just like you get stuck in a conversation. Now this has changed. This is no longer the case. I mean, occasionally somebody wouldn't know the breed, but that's not the case anymore. It was at the time, any type of bully lab mixes. That was the traditional dog that you would see 70% of the population in any shelter. Now it seems like Malinois, unfortunately, are competing for the most popular dog that gets thrown in a shelter. And they are comparing to the bullies. Malinois are very difficult in this type of environment. They just cannot. Not that it's a
100%.
good environment for any dog, but Malinois are a little more edgy, a little more temperamental, and that claustrophobia drives them nuts in there. So the presentation
Yeah.
is
And I think
horrible.
their desire to be with a person so they're alone in the shelter. They're just strapped. So that attachment they have, I think, of the other breeds is another thing that makes them crazy. The energy level that makes them crazy. And when you're in a shelter environment and you are spinning, they consider that a quality of life issue, and they say, okay, well, he's thriving. This dog is not thriving in the shelter environment, and that puts them on the list to be euthanized because they're just not doing well, or or their defensive characteristics. They're going to end up being a higher tendency to bark through the kennel. All right, that's something that gets dogs euthanized. Um, I mean, right now we're in a situation where dogs are being euthanized for space all over the place. So we're going to take the dogs that aren't thriving and the tougher dogs and the dogs that are not going to be adopted. You know, a Malinois big dog or hey, mommy, come here. It's my neighbor's dog is out. Anyway, you're going to end up, uh, I rate of euthanasia for these dogs. So I think it's a special breed. And I love the fact that I'm on here because I think that many of your listeners, they're trainers, they're serious people, they have an opportunity, if they know what's happening, to foster, to do something. You know, you don't have to go, these people don't have to go start a rescue. Go foster a dog, or don't even foster a dog. Go to a shelter, pull up on petharbor.com or one of these, any of these search engines. Go play with a dog. Just do that. You go play with a dog, you'll be very surprised at what you see, I think, in the shelter.
But
And
that's kind of how you get sucked into that rescue shelter type of work that sometimes is very
yes.
heartbreaking. There is no sugarcoating. And when you get stuck there and you go and you take a dog out and then you go to work and then 4 days have passed and you're like, I know that dog is not going out unless I go and take it out. And now the wheel starts spinning and you getting sucked into that, which is good and bad. And eventually, like I really feel for the volunteer people because they're just always really amazing people, regardless of, you know, if they want to have a prong collar or they are totally against a prong collar, whatever, that totally irrelevant for the moment. But just the fact that anyone can give a little bit of their time to go and take those dogs out on a walk, which they are just starving to
Uh-huh.
get out. Like it's like the only good thing that they can ever see. And as a volunteer, you totally, like, within the first time you take a dog out, you immediately realize how much you're contributing to the life of any dog that it's stuck in there, and then you're getting hooked. And it's very hard to get off of this. And the hardest part for them is when a dog gets put down. And typically, some of the volunteers try to find some backdoors, opportunities to save a dog. But again, you can save so many until somebody would have to be euthanized for no apparent reason besides just we really don't have any room, and his or she's been here for more than 10 months or whatever their protocol is, and it's heartbreaking.
You know, I'm stuck in this in a way. You know, I think there are plenty of times I'd like to not do this, get off Facebook and you know, go back to my normal life, go kite surfing and doing the stuff I, you know, maybe play with a couple dogs here and there. But so in a way, I am trapped in this because whatever this thing that I've created followers, it helps the. It's like I know I am highly confident if I go into a shelter and meet a dog and play with that dog, takes video, Go home, spend a couple of hours on that video, post it, right? Give a like an honest assessment of what that dog is. There's a very good chance that dog is going to get out of the shelter. Like, like I would say close to 80% of the time. And my goal is to get the dog out of the shelter through to follower or to a rescue that I work with over somebody who's going to walk into the shelter because I know they're going to end up in a better home if the person at least knows what the breed is. So, every now and again, I'll get a call from a shelter volunteer or worker. Can you do something about this dog or that dog? Now I take some shortcuts now. I say, okay, get me video of the dog. I want you to play with the dog, give me different angles, throw some toys. So, you think about stuff for that, for a Malinois, play tug with the dog. I want to see a lot. Give me 15, 20-second clips, a lot of them. And then you put something together with music, something that you can see the dog, see the reaction of the dog, see the eyes, see how he responds. Now you have something that someone can look at like a foster. Okay, maybe they're not a current foster for Big Cypress German Shepherd Rescue or Mad Rescue. Maybe they're an inactive foster. But if I can put those videos and people can see with their own eyes this dog, how it interacts, how it reacts, then a rescue is in a position to say, okay, I can see that dog. I can see, okay, and they can send that video over to someone else hey, you're in an inactive foster. Take a look at this video. What do you think? Would you take that dog? And the person who's going to take the dog can say, okay. So that's like another thing that I try to do to work with all the rescues to help them evaluate the dog, give them an honest opinion of the dog, the what happened to the dog? How did it end here? Everything that I can tell them about the dog.
Yeah, any story is a good story.
Earlier that we met through, yeah, I didn't want to jump ahead, but I sent the video of that dog to you because I wanted your opinion so that I could go back to the rescues and say, okay, here is what this guy says about this dog. Here's why it's like this. Here's what's happening here. First, I never expected you to reply, but I never expected you to reply as you did, which was quite, yeah. You said I baited you into that. And I was looking for,
I'm good
but
with my decisions always. I never.
yeah, yeah. But so I think that there is like, all right, I want to go back to take a step back because you talked about getting sucked
Yes.
into rescue and things like that. I I'm very specific. I love all dogs. Uh, but I made a decision that I was going to focus on this one breed. I'll be an expert in this breed, and that is what I'm going to focus on. So I've gotten good at going to the shelter, putting blinders on, going to K3 or wherever that dog is, and going to that and just focusing on that one dog. I don't have to save everybody. There's that parable of the kid who walks on the beach and the starfish, he's throwing starfish back into the ocean. And a man comes up to him and says, "What are you doing? You could never make a difference with all these starfish." And the kid throws a starfish into the water. He said, "I made a difference to that, to that one." And I think that's what I try to do. Take one dog and make a difference to that dog. And that's
Yeah.
it. That one at a time. And if 10,000 people do that, or
No, no,
and that's it.
it's amazing,
We
and
can,
I don't want to come like I probably came off as I'm trying to discourage people from volunteering, which is totally not what I want to say.
no, but you're hitting exactly the
But
problem.
yes,
You just
I think it's such a delicate, and it can be very, very traumatizing to the people that come to help, to volunteer their time. And looking back to, man, I have so many cool ideas of what kind of changes can be done in shelter and rescue environments that maybe sometimes I just need to really sit down and you know, put all this together. But like going back to the volunteers, one of the things is those people are they're just such a good-hearted people that ultimately, sooner or later, if they stick doing this for more than 3 months, they will be heartbroken. There is no question.
They'll be heartbroken and burned out.
And what can be done about this is just, as they come to volunteer, to have a simple conversation that kind of, you know, I mean, it's a psychological level type of, you know, like preparedness of what you're gonna do. So you have a little bit, it doesn't just hit you one day as hard as it can be, but you have a little bit more of realistic expectations, what you're going to do, and what sometimes the outcomes will be there. And I think if this happens, and it's done prior to starting to actually really do heavy-duty volunteering, have some really good, like, intro course, that can have more sustainable number of people that will stay longer in this type of environment, because it's just really not easy.
The only problem with that is I don't think people understand the connection that they're going to end up making.
Right.
When I don't think they really get what's, you know, they're gonna go, they see these, you know, they're just these random dogs, and they're just gonna go in there. So you know, yeah, it's great to help a dog, and they're gonna walk in. I don't think they're prepared for how emotion, like when you see the wide range of emotions of a dog, that's when you begin to truly appreciate what we're dealing with, the gift that we have. So, you know, someone has to be prepared to accept the knowledge that you want to give them before they know what's about to happen to them. Was like when I look at these, like geez, when I look at these dogs, I've never had a foster I didn't fall in love with and cry when they left. It's really amazing. I only had one. It was a puppy. It was like a 5-month-old puppy. It's the only dog I ran out of the house and threw into the car and then ran inside and locked the door. The puppies. I can't stand those. But give me a 2-year-old dog or 3-year-old dog, and then you see that wide range of emotions, from the dog that you bring home to the shelter, from the shelter, who's afraid of you and who's you know, shaking, and then to see them make the transition to happy and confident and a jerk, and just, you know, when you see that wide range of emotions, I think it makes you fall for the dogs much more than, oh, there's a dog.
Correct. Yeah.
When you start to see, like, wow, look, this is amazing. This is, you know, because most of my life, I think I went through life looking at dogs and just, oh, it's a dog. What, you know, but until you start to actually see
Yes,
it, it's
it's like it takes very little interaction, but it's the interaction that makes everything, connects everything. I mean, the volunteers is like you know, they
oh, I feel
relate
for
to
them.
the dogs one way or another, and chances are a lot of times, like I've spent a lot of thinking, especially when I was working, you know, in that environment. There was always this question, man, like there's these people that, I mean, I was like, they must like and love dogs more than me. And then I'm sitting back and thinking, well, how is that even possible when I'm just, it just cannot be possible. But then I think of them and it's like, okay, well, they work, they come, they go back to work, they don't take vacation because that dog they're just attached to. And some very often the people that go and volunteer, they also need the dogs. It's kind of like a two-way
Hmm.
benefit. Like the you know how you would have therapy dogs. A
Yeah.
lot of volunteers would
Uh-huh.
do that. So they are, maybe they have some troubles in their life. They're going through some bad shit, and they would rather take a dog out and talk to the dog than deal with humans again, which makes it even more
That's
hard, you
actually
know?
fairly common. This is fairly common, by the way. I think that many people involved in rescue have some sort of trauma in their life. Somebody had told me that, and I thought, "Oh, it doesn't sound." And then the longer I stayed and got to know people more, there really does seem to be, not for all, but many, they seem to have a trauma. So I think what you bring up is actually quite interesting, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. That the dogs are helping them.
Yeah, and that's a lot of times, you know, because of lack of education and the whole force-free ideology, and you know, there is always this conflicts ongoing of, well, we cannot use aversive, we cannot use pain, we cannot, there is the fallouts, all these horrible words and so on. And the people that volunteer there, they fight with everything they can because they're convinced that that is uh, um, the good thing to do. The you know, not really understanding that sometimes you will save a life if you break through the ideology, but that's a different conversation maybe for later. Um,
Yeah. But no, I think that like the people who volunteer, are the people who work in the rescues, absolutely fantastic, wonderful, loving, caring people. But it is infiltrated, inundated, infiltrated, uh, with the force-free ideology. Because it certainly does sound good. You know, we talk about that there aren't a lot of people in rescue who are really in it for a very long time. The burnout
yes,
is real. So you don't have a lot of like really grizzled veterans in the rescue world because they just get burned out. So you have a lot of people who I think that in the rescue world we could do better about training, knowing training, understanding training. And but when you constantly have a just new influx of people,
yes.
you don't have
Yeah,
that.
that turnaround is it's difficult, just because you eventually, just like with anything, you know, you have different levels. You have dogs that are, they're not your easy dog to take out on a walk. They need a little bit, at least a little bit above the basic level of understanding how to walk a dog. And then the more experienced the person is, there is that satisfaction. Okay, I'm able to take the more difficult dogs out. But as you're doing that, now the pressure on you starts to be harder because those dogs are not easy to deal with. And then with the tools and what is available, or what you can use or not use, that doesn't help to make the walk easy on the dog and on the volunteer. And here we go in some really crazy loop that then that dog starts to sit more and more in the kennel, starts to go crazier and crazier.
Absolutely. And you see this in practice happening down at something like Miami-Dade. You cannot come in there with a prong collar. So there are dogs, there are wonderful volunteers down there, but they don't want to take that dog for a walk. They don't want to take the dog we were talking about earlier for a walk. You imagine trying to take her for a walk when she was at the shelter. Right? God bless the girl who was in that
I
video
know.
shortly, who takes that who would take that, but she wasn't a volunteer, because normally they have volunteers, but they can't take that, they can't take that dog, and no wonder why the dog is insane in the shelter. Meanwhile, you put a prong collar on a dog, you show somebody how to, couple quick things, boom, you got a dog you could walk on a collar, and after, 5 minutes later, you could walk a dog on a
Yeah,
collar,
sometimes it's
on a
super
prong collar.
easy. At least in my eyes, it's super easy. It's like you just outweigh the cost and benefits. And if the cost is higher, okay. But if the benefits are higher, how can you why would you be so stubborn? Because yeah, it's unexplainable.
Because they'll be attacked, because the management over at a shelter, I don't want to say Miami-Dade or any, pick one, but the management is afraid that they'll get attacked, and it could look bad having a prong collar on a dog. That somebody can bring this and look at this, because it's such an easy thing to do, to say, look at this. I mean, I have them sitting right here. You know, I use them all the time. But
If this is the deal breaker for somebody to be able to take a dog out on a walk in a controlled manner and allow the dog still to enjoy some freedom and shake it off and smell the roses outside and take him back out. Why are we making such a big deal? Why are we trying to point these fallouts that are highly questionable?
nonsense. Nonsense. I have no problem using the prong collar. Call any one of these dogs. Karina, up, Karina, come. Come here, mama. I've used prong collars on every dog here. If I take the prong collar out, you know, no one's running from it.
Right,
Well,
right.
yeah, but no one's running away. Come here, mommy. This one, Freya. Well, you can't see, but with your mama.
I think also
Yeah.
because of the ideology of the all positive training, the criterias and the when they have to accept a dog or they have to try to work a dog in a shelter environment, and they evaluate what they can do with the tools they're allowed to use, then a lot of dogs just don't get accepted at the door because they would be considered difficult, dangerous, uncontrollable, and basically not rehabilitatable, simply because it cannot be done with the dog training equipment that they are allowed to use.
Yeah. Well, there's two. One of the things I want to mention is you have a municipal shelter. So you have a municipal shelter that are run by, for example, the county. So you have Miami-Dade Animal
Animal
Services.
care and control, right?
They're open admission. They have to take every single dog. No matter what, they have to take the dog. Well, that's always, but now there's overpopulation. Anyway, that's the theory, is the municipal shelter takes every single dog. There are the no-kill shelters, which are often run by rescues, maybe like the Humane Society. Those are limited admission, so they don't euthanize dogs, but they also don't take. They're only going to take good. They're only going to take good dogs. So you have the municipal shelters, then you have the sort of the next level down, which are the humane societies, which are no kill, limited admission, and then there's another type of rescue generally, which is the foster based smaller rescues. So so you have Miami-Dade, Palm Beach County. They're supposed to take every single. Okay? The bad dog that comes in is going to the behavior section. It's never going to show up on the adoption floor. When you're walking through the kennels at Miami-Dade, you're not going to see the bad dogs because they're in the behavior section. Okay. An email blast goes out to the rescues. Hey, we have this dog. He has a bite history. The dog's getting euthanized and no one's going to see it. Um, so, but but you can't put a pinch collar on it. No prong collar on the dog they're going to euthanize that's in the behavior section. It's just getting euthanized. So there's very little chance to work, and you can barely get into even see those dogs or work with them at most municipal shelters. The way it works, if a rescue wants to pull a dog from the behavior section, that dog is usually fetch pulled, and dragged and put into a crate, and that crate, you give them a crate, they put in the crate and put in your car. Nobody's touching that dog. And I think you're seeing that more and more, where dogs are not being touched. Their dogs are just being dragged in, and and then you know, and the rescues can't, and there's too many good dogs. There's too many dogs that are known that are on the adoption floor to spend any time with these dogs that are hidden in the behavior section. So that's a whole nother world. But, if I was a rescue, who could I well, I could take this dog that I could see that Jim interacted with and played with, or I can take this dog. Well, I don't have enough fosters even for the good dogs. So these other dogs, there's there's really no hope for the ones that end up in the behavior
That's
section.
another one, like,
And
how I was saying, like, I have so many cool ideas. I think they're cool ideas about uh, um, advertising and letting the dogs being seen as in a different light, and I remember, again, man, just working back in that environment, a lot of times it will come down to how skillful someone is to write the kennel card with, okay, my name is,
yeah,
and this is my personality, and that was the deal breaker. And so you can have a dog that you can get very creative, and somebody can be very good at writing and somebody is not, and but that time is gone. We have videos, as you said, we have social media, as you said, like, even when you, like, one thing, if I am like some, running a shelter or a rescue group, I would have video monitors, I mean, players. And so if whatever, if it's a kennel or if it's a little, like, a room type of environment, depending how much money that place is spending on the dogs, but every dog will have a player behind
I love it. Oh, yes,
with
yes, yes.
what
I
that
love that.
dog does. Like, yes, he can go on the beach. Yes, he can meet people. Yes, he can lick other dogs. Yes, he can play ball. Yes, he can do all this. Yes, he can lay down. What you're seeing right now in the cage, that's not the dog.
All right. My offshoot, and I did this and it worked. There was a particular dog who showed horribly in the kennel, and this was down in Miami. He showed horrible in the kennel, and some networkers, these are people who are like sharing the dogs, etc., begged me to get involved with this dog. He wasn't a Malinois, maybe a touch of Malinois, but somehow I got roped into helping this other dog. And so okay, I meet the dog, I make a cool video. It doesn't get adopted. I make another one. I do a photo shoot. I ask my friend who's a photographer, "Could you do a photo shoot?" Gabby, uh, sh we do a photo shoot with this dog, and, so I can make another cool video with some great pictures, but nothing's happening. So I make I decide, "Okay, let me take one of these videos." I want people who are in the shelter to come look at the dog, but be able to scan the kennel card and see the video. So I made my own QR code. I mounted it on the kennel. This dog was one of the longest. He was in there for something like a year. And if people walk by, he just hid in the back of his crate, and nothing. And then I put the kennel card up, and a week later, Somebody scanned the card, saw the video of him and I playing together. She adopted the dog. The dog sat there for a year because anyone saw that this dog was just, you know, scary. He was a little scary looking dog. So again, that's the sort of like what I try to do. Show people what this dog is outside of the kennel and how it can play and be a real dog. So that was Champ. That dog's name was Champ.
And Malinois, I
Um,
mean, yeah, like I think with our breed, people have a, I mean, you know, like you have to be realistic when you're talking about Malinois. And if a Malinois tags you because you surprised it, it doesn't necessarily mean much besides being the breed and knowing how to handle this kind of situation. I'm not saying all of them are like that, but that's not surprise. It cannot be surprising to anybody. This is the good and the bad that comes with the breed. That's why they are so cool.
nobody who the average individual who goes and adopts a Malinois from a shelter has absolutely no idea about that. There was a dog, Woogie. Woogie got adopted from Palm Beach. A woman, he was going to be euthanized, and a woman saved, whatever saved. I don't know if he was going to be euthanized, but a woman adopted him and he went to Orlando. I get a call like a week or two later. Woogie's on his way back here. He 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 bit he bit her, bit the mother. I said, "Do you have a picture of it?" So they sent me a picture of it. Nothing. This is like nothing. Absolutely nothing. And she's on her way. And she somehow I get her number and I call her. I'm like, listen, what that just happened to you was you got mouthed. That's it. He just mouthed you. No, he's aggressive. And I'm driving in the car right now, and he is being aggressive right now. He's attacking me. I, I'm saying he's biting my arm right now. I said, ma'am, if a Malinois is attacking you, you would be in the side of the road mouthing you. But it didn't matter. She kept driving. She dropped the dog back off, and the dog was immediately given 3 days. 3 days, and they were going to ice the dog. Uh, Now, fortunately, she had sent me videos prior of the dog playing, and I was able to put a video together of Woogie and this is the dog and this is the bite. She even sent me so in the video is the bite, which is a scratch. So that dog is doing fantastic today.
I
So
think among
people don't
even among
understand.
trainers, this is a like depending how much somebody is working with dogs with bite history. Actually, it's not even that. I don't know where I'm going with this. Like the criterias for somebody, and I'm not talking somebody that is adopting a dog. I'm talking about a professional trainer. And when they say, well, this dog is really aggressive, and then I look at the dog being really aggressive, and I'm like, what are we talking about? Like this, like I wouldn't even change anything about this dog. And then when I consider something as an aggressive dog, in the eyes of somebody else, this dog is to be euthanized within the next hour because there is no chance. So we have a very different levels of what aggressive dog is and what can be rehabilitated and what not. I hate to say it, and I don't hate to say it, the force-free people that work in the shelter environment are, in my opinion, responsible for euthanizing dogs that should not be euthanized at all. Like dogs that are not difficult dogs to put back in the right track.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't even want to blame. I don't want to blame the individual trainers, but I think that it's the management of these shelters who are based. It's political. You know, it's all political. It's you know, the people who run the shelters, it's political appointment. They have to worry about getting elected. So it comes from the top. It comes from them. You know, and they'll print out the pamphlets and positive only and the AFs, you know, whatever. They'll so you know, these employees are limited to what they can do. It's positive only. That's all they can do. So I don't want to, but they are indoctrinated when, you know, by the shelter system and, uh, you know, when they come in. So I think that's where a lot of it comes from. You know, they don't have a choice but other than to be, but it's a mistake. But I think it's, I 100% believe it's a mistake because you know, even if force free can get the result eventually, eventually is not soon enough. You have to get the results quickly because there are too many dogs that to let you know to let these things drag out for the weeks and months that it might take a force-free, positive only, differential reinforcement to work. Sometimes you got to tell the dog, no, boom, knock it off. That's it. And end the issues. You know, then you can address the deeper, but sometimes you just got to stop the dangerous stuff first and go from there. So,
Even man,
yeah.
it's such a I knew we're gonna be talking about this, and it's an interesting conversation to have, and I'm sure a lot of the people that listen to my podcast will be interested in all this, and just the environment in any shelter that has more than 30 dogs in their facility, which is pretty much every single shelter in the country. The really good ones, or I shouldn't say the good ones, but the ones that have done good PR and get good money and get, you know, they can do a little bit better than some other places that are really run down. There is like everywhere I would go, the dogs are just out of control, frustrated, and it's no matter how the shelter environment looks like, the dogs themselves act like how people will act in a jail. And then the good ones focus on the enrichment side of things. Well, what can we do? Well, let's put the TV there. Let's put a sofa and let's give them the mind games and whatever and whatever. But it's all focused based on how we can reinforce good behavior. And good behavior is very small percentage that you can afford to wait to reinforce. Most of it is just bouncing off the walls and barking and making lick sores on themselves and doing all sorts of things to where we have to put them on trazodone and gabapentin and all the other more serious psychotropic things. None of it really works the way it should. But why can they not try at least in one section of the kennel that they can say, you know what, this nonsense just bouncing off the walls and feeding from each other's frenziness is just not allowed. Like knock it off. Like everybody just knock it off. You know? And play with it and see the cost and benefit.
Well, you know, uh, dogs playing for life. Uh, I have to commend those. I saw those guys. Well, first of all, I saw those guys. Those guys at Miami-Dade just knock my socks off. There was a guy there. I wish I could remember his name. This guy weighed about 130 pounds soaking wet. Tall, skinny guy. I don't know what his weight was, but this guy was phenomenal. They made sure to take every single dog that was in that shelter, every single dog that was in that shelter, they got him out into the play yard with the other dogs. It didn't matter. And he got him out of the behavior section. There was a particular dog, Nino, Nino. Nino, everybody was afraid of in there. Now, Nino, I found somebody who was going to adopt Nino. Let's say Nino. That's not his name, but let's say I found someone who was going to adopt Nino. He was in Georgia, and he was going to train him to be a look at. He was going to try and train him to be a police canine. So he was supposed to come within a couple of days. Anyway, uh, their dog playing for life is in there. They've got every single dog played with. And then I said, okay. So this tall, skinny guy gets up. He says, okay, did we get every dog? There's like 400 dogs in Miami-Dade. They got them all, except for this one dog. Except for this one dog. They hid Nino in the back. They didn't tell him. So I was there, but I knew. I said, what about Nino? The jaws dropped. Oh, we can't. No. He says, I told you I want to see every dog. So they're like, oh boy. They go and they bring him out. Now, later you're going to see why they were all afraid of him. But anyway, they bring him out. Comes out. All the employees are just making way because he's coming in. He comes in. That son of a gun. He's like, all right, put him here. I'll bring him in. He opened the gate. That dog came in and just played like a champ with everybody. And people were amazed. Now, sad story for Nino. He a couple days later, I came back and somebody was taking him for a walk. I think an inexperienced vet tech had him on a string. Okay, not a prong collar. One of these strings, these blue and white strings. It's just nothing. You can't hold it. You can't control the dog. But that's what he took the dog out, and the dog came out, lunged at somebody, and broke her arm. And that dog was euthanized within an hour. So that dog was on his way. He was going to hopefully leave within a couple days, but it didn't happen. But anyway, I just talk about enrichment, and I got off track there. Dogs playing for life, the enrichment, bring them out, having them play with
Yeah,
other
but
dogs.
but
But
having them play with other dogs is it's actually an activity that it's not like the enrichment. What like how they think of it is just let's put some cool things in their cages so they can entertain themselves. And most dogs don't want to entertain themselves alone. So no matter what kind of enrichment you're putting in there and how often you become more creative and you put new things, dogs still, especially dogs that are stuck in there, they don't want to be entertained by themselves. They want an interaction. They want to get out. They want to do something with a person or with another dog or dogs or whatever. And that's it. This is the, well, we cannot do that. Well, we probably could, but we need some different tools, perhaps. We need some different ideas of what we can do and not do in order to provide that kind of controlled and safe environment when the dog can thrive. Of course, if we're not able to control it, yeah, that's a disaster ready to happen, right? I mean, but
yeah, I mean, I guess it comes down to having enough volunteers to put any of this into place,
I think,
which goes
yeah,
back
I,
to
I think it's and I don't know, I was talking lately with some of my graduates here, and there are a few of them. You probably follow some of them too. But like going to a shelters and doing some work and trying to just help some of the
Dylan
Dylan Jones
Jones.
is one of them. Very good example. Yes, and then somebody from the shelter will kind of jump in. It's like, oh, why we cannot do that. And then it's like, okay, then what can we do? Like, show me how do we take that dog out? Because do we want to take the dog out or no? And if we cannot, we know what's happening with that dog. It's doomed. So, can you take it out? Can you show us, can you teach everybody if you have a better option, just let's do it? Well, I don't have. Well, now we have a problem.
This is 100% what happens in the shelters. 100% what happens in these shelters. They're run by bureaucrats, and I think some of these. Listen, I love the shelter employees, the guys who are running the kennel staff, but sometimes the management of these places. I don't know if uh, uh, they've just been there so long, they're just uh, numb to it and don't even
Some
care.
are, but not all of them. I
It
think,
must.
just as you said earlier, some of them are just very reluctant to go against the mainstream. They're just sincerely afraid that they're gonna get jumped by all these fanatics that they're abusing and torturing dogs in their facility, which again, if you can do something, then do it and show everybody how to do it, and let's get those dogs out. Let's train them. Let's allow them to have some quality time, not enrichment, but actual quality time of doing cool things, so they can maintain some sanity. It really comes down to that in a shelter environment. But to simply say, well, no, these barbaric tools are not allowed. So we have
And that's exactly
we
what
have
happens.
the two things. It's like, okay, well, we can use those tools and we can give the quality of life and interaction that I'm talking about, or we can take them away, which is fine. Let's take them away, but I would have a problem if taking away those training equipment will take away with the tools the quality of interaction. Now,
I think it comes down in the end to how things look. How does it look? And I think that's what the management of these places are driven by. How will it look? How will it look if I put this if I put this on a dog stack and somebody takes a picture of it? You know, how does that look? Because they're more concerned about their job, about being than anything else. And it's such an easy thing to say, oh my God, look at that. It's such an easy thing to criticize this.
yeah, and it's and like I man, I don't want to talk about the fanatics, like there is the extremists, and anytime I'm against force-free people, I keep emphasizing this. I'm not against somebody that trains force-free. Actually, I admire when they try to find a way to do something in the way they want to do it. But when we're compromising welfare, and what I mean by compromising welfare is we're gonna euthanize the dog. That is a compromising of welfare based on what we can and what we cannot do to change the dog. So let's say me and Zach George go into a shelter. He's gonna take maybe 80% of the dogs. I mean, at best, I don't think he is at all. I have zero respect as a trainer because I've not seen nothing of substance as a trainer. But anyway, let's say he can take 80% of the dogs out. The other 20% or the other 10%, he will have to do what is prescribed by the ideology. The dog's gonna pull a little, you're gonna take it back, you're gonna do that, and you're gonna end up spending a lot of time just to try to put the leash on and perhaps get to the lobby of the shelter.
Yeah. And nobody has
And
time.
I will.
Nobody has time in these shelters to do
and
this.
So if I or any other trainer can put a certain training equipment on that dog and take it out on a walk, like on a long walk, how can you convince me that you are on the better side of the story? How?
You can't convince me. You can't convince me. I've used prong collars. You know what the great thing about whatever I do is that I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't take contributions from anybody. I don't have any employee. I have one client. That's that shelter dog that's relying on me. So I don't have to worry about pleasing anybody. I don't have a client that I have to say, oh, you want to trade force free. I care about one thing, that one particular dog. So I'm going to do whatever I can for that one particular dog. Okay. And if that means using teaching how to use a prong collar, that's what I'm doing. If it means using an e-collar, I'll do that. I rarely use an e-collar. I don't have anything against them, but I rarely use it. I'll use a prong collar often, but I'm going to do what's right for that dog because I care about that dog. I don't care what you think about me. I don't care how it makes me look. How am I going to address you, this particular dog in front of me? So, management of these places, everyone's busy. You know what? Everyone's busy trying to either impress or keep their job or worry about one thing. So, it's frustrating. It's frustrating.
Do you ever get dogs dropped like directly at you, or people trying to just really bypass all the rescue and shelter? What do you do in that situation?
Sometimes I'll get, I've had dogs come directly to my house. Like, for example, one of the shelters down here, Broward County, they know who I am. If a Malinois or uh, uh, a shepherd comes in, they're full. Everyone's full. They have my number, so I'll often get a call. Uh, hey, so and so over at the shelter gave me your number. They're full. Can you help me? So I have them come and drop the dog off at me. And if I can take the dog, I can't always take the dog, but sometimes I can take the dog, hold it, maybe get it to a rescue, sometimes hang on to onto the dog. So yeah, sometimes dogs come directly to me.
Yeah, you're really deep into it, I guess. Like I always try to have some boundary for myself. And even now, I mean, I always have some problem dogs. I mean, Tina is a prime example. Like, at this point, can she go somewhere and live her life? Probably, but she's my dog now. I've put so much in it that there is no question. It's kind of like, what was that book? The Little Prince and the Fox. Like you spend enough time to tame me, and things change. And it's like such a common narrative. I have this little Chihuahua mix now, Rocky. I always had dogs.
Another Chihuahua. I think you had one years
Yeah,
back.
that was
Chihuahua.
that was a Yorkie at the time too.
Oh, you're right.
That was a man. If I show you, it was a 6-month-old puppy that was just kind of bullying his sister. and they ended up putting him on fluoxetine. At 6 months old, a Yorkie, chasing the other dog around. No, this is wrong. I mean, this is wrong on so many levels. Like, much more worse than even just strapping a shock collar on a dog, you know, because it's just a temporary something. I don't know. But where I was going with this is, you know, it's a. I always try to have a little boundary, because there is that side of me that, you know, like it was very, very hard for me. Like I don't think I've even talked about this so much on podcasts, but it really traumatized me at one point in my life, working at the San Francisco SPCA, and then you know, that was the time when the whole force-free movement really was picking up. And it would just seem to be the right thing to do because it's a humane society and welfare, and it just was promoted and marketed in such a way. But ultimately, when you're in it, and you know the dogs that can be helped are now rejected, and you know their destiny is, yeah, you're gonna be put down in, it's a matter of days. And I was at a position that I had to evaluate and test dogs that are adoptable and accept them from the animal care in the SPCA, and then work with them as long as they're there, and probably give some help to the people that adopt them and so on. And eventually it came down to me not able to accept dogs that I know that I can help, and they have to be put down. And one day I quit, and that same day was the day that I kind of realized what how bad I felt for how long I felt that way. It's kind of like you know, how some people get stuck in the daily traffic going to work and spending hour and a half in traffic, until eventually maybe you change your job or change something in your life, and now you're no longer stuck in traffic for 3 hours every day. And then you realize it's when you're looking back at it, you're like, what the fuck I was doing? You know? It's a very, very tough.
Oh, I feel you. Like, I don't know how I feel for these. I feel for these volunteers. And God, I want to shout out to Marcela Garcia Bonini. She is a volunteer down in Miami-Dade. She goes to the shelter. She does what I do, meets the dogs, videotapes them. Please follow Marcella on Facebook and Instagram. Absolute angel to these dogs down there. She goes there day in and day out, filming these dogs just one after the other, posting the videos. But how she does it, I don't know. You know, I get to draw boundaries myself. I have a great little setup here that I've kind of created. I can I'll go to the shelter here and there, maybe get a dog, maybe I'll have a rescue to back me, and then I can focus on this one dog that I have here. I don't have to see everything in the shelters every day. I do love going to the shelter and going straight to the kennel with blinders on to the dog I'm going to focus on, because I know there's a good chance I'm going to get that dog out if I go see the dog. Um, but like to see all the bullies who walk by to see every dog that they're just not getting out. That is home. At least by focusing on, and I would suggest like focus on one breed, and then that helps, you know, mentally partition and say, okay, I don't have to, I'm not going to look there. Let me just look at this one dog. You know, if somebody were to do what I do and just focus on
That's good way of thinking. That actually can keep you a little bit more protected and not as vulnerable to your emotional breakdowns.
to say, I am the expert in
Right.
this part. This dog, I'm the expert. I want to help you, but I just, I can do better if I just focus on this one breed. And I would suggest anyone who wants to help dogs, pick a breed, be the expert in that breed. It's going to help you get dogs adopted. People will pay attention to you more when they're looking, and they'll start to reach out to you. I'm looking for this dog. Then you start to adopt, calling you. It's easy to find dogs that need homes. What's really hard to find are people who want to adopt what you have. Being an expert in a particular breed, people start to call you. Hey, I've got a buddy. I got a message yesterday. Hey, I've got a buddy. He's looking for a Malinois. Got an 11-year-old daughter. Should be stable. Okay, great. Let me put that in my head.
And then you end up being kind of the person to go to if somebody is looking for a, just like if somebody wants to get a BMW, it's going to go to the BMW dealership, right? It's not going to go to Ford and vice versa. You know what also bugs me a lot is and again, I get more and more impatient with the extreme views of ideology when the ideology stands above a life of a dog. And you will have a professional trainer that perhaps has the knowledge and perhaps can do something, but the ideology is not allowing it to happen. But why can you not stop for a moment and think that if you don't help the dog, chances are it's going to end up in a shelter, and that's the best case scenario. And even when it ends up in a shelter, chances are it's going to get euthanized. So there is a lot at stake. And it's mind-boggling to me that you can put ideology above dog's life. I don't get that.
I certainly don't get that. I can't see it. I can't. I don't even know. I don't even know where to go. Well, you know what I think the problem is? I think the problem is that the people who've been sold the ideology believe it. I think they believe it. I don't think they haven't gone to your course. They haven't even tried. I talk to people and in rescue, and they are afraid of a prong collar. They're like afraid to put a prong collar on a dog. They believe it. And these are people who love the dog, whatever. And I've had someone talk to me recently who runs a rescue, fantastic rescue, but and she's having trouble with the dog. And she's like, I'm having trouble with this particular dog, but and maybe it needs a little bit more than we. I said, yeah, bring the dog by. Let's, see. I want to see what the dog's about. And maybe you might want to have a prong collar if you're having trouble walking the dog and he's going. Let's. Oh my God, can you walk through it with me? I said, yeah, bring the dog over. Let's do that. So, they have all been sold. Not all, but many have been sold this bill of goods of the force free, of how good it is, and the fallout from prong collars or saying no to the dog. Someone said that the other day. Oh, I was talking to somebody. They say I shouldn't say no to this. I'm like, people are still telling people they can't say no to a dog. I thought that was just, but they're saying it's still going on. Yeah, but so anyway, I think a lot of people are just they're well-meaning people in the rescue world, but they are and like I said, it's you don't have the grizzled veterans because everyone burns out. So you have a lot of newer, younger people. Uh, Rescues can come and go because it's just a horrible business. So everyone, I'm not say everyone is new, but a lot of people are new in the rescue world, and they are listening to what the YouTube algorithms put out, which is going to be more of the force-free, positive-only stuff. So I think there's that's part of the
There is
problem.
the rescue, like local different places across the countries, man. There is so many different types. There is a lot, like, and I'm not exaggerating. There is a lot of con artists in this business, simply getting money, donations, running shady practices that just pisses me off so much.
Yeah, 100%. There. You know, I am lucky. I know I work with like a few rescues that I know really well, and I end up working with those rescues who I see what they're doing. Um, by the way, I want to take a step back a second.
Hold on one
One of the
second.
cool things
Remember,
about some of
remember
the
what you're saying. I know I'm gonna forget this, but talking about, how I always defend one side. I don't always defend one side. I can tell you right now that there is this. I know of rescue places that every dog is trapped with a bar collar. Every dog is put in a garage in a crate, and they're just having a miserable life altogether. And yes, that sucks and that's incorrect. This should not be happening. They should not be even in the business of doing any of this. This is like total suppression. That's not what's about. I have to say that because sometimes I always come as somebody that attacks only the force-free ideology, and then I definitely I'm so much against that there is bad stuff happening. You cannot be a rescue place and just trying to stock dogs and keep them in crates with bar collars so they're quiet so the neighbors don't worry. You're not having the environment, you don't have the time, you don't have the knowledge to provide a healthy life that can bring some future to these dogs. This should not be happening. Then, somebody, as you said, there is the other ones, there's the good ones, like, Sylvia with her, what was a rescue garage, every time we have a class and we have like expert trainers or whatever, we get dogs from her, and they spend a week with training and doing things, and I know what she does, and I know her heart is in the right place, and she may not have food for herself, but they're fed, they're walked, they're taken care of. There's different levels, and not everybody is the same.
I have to stop. I love Sylvia. Sylvia is the best. The Rescue Garage. Shout out to Northport. I have one of her dogs right here. Hey, Mama, where are you? I emailed her the other day, day before yesterday. Just there was a dog with Demodex in bad shape, a little puppy. And I wanted to get her opinion because she is one of the most knowledgeable rescue people that I talk to. And she is an exception. There is sort of a grizzled veteran, somebody who knows rescue, one of the smartest people. So when I have a question or an issue, and I actually got to introduce through you with Tina, because whatever, but she is one of the professionals in this business. So when I have an issue and I saw this puppy, I sent the picture to Sylvia. I said, tell me about this condition and what. Uh, uh, Before I had a chance to type anything, she said, "I'll take it." And come here, where are you? Well, I got to show you this. Well, I think that's. Come here, mommy. Mama, come. All right, she's around here somewhere. I'll bring her out, but she's a pathetic looking dog, but I love her. Anyway, that's Sylvia and another expert and someone who I wanted to make sure I gave a shout out to while you brought
No,
her
it's
up.
important. No. That's all I had to say. It's just that there again, just like with everything else, you you have a very shitty car mechanic that is just trying to rob you as soon as you go for oil change. All of a sudden, you're paying for your engine to be replaced, and and it's the same in the dog industry. It's nothing
And
different.
and the trainer, there was a trainer over here. I can't remember the company's name. And one of their trainers was videotaped helicoptering the dog, choking out, hanging the dog, and there was videotape of that dog. And they eventually shut him down, and they confiscated the dog, and that was a dog uh, by the name of Arson. Arson went to the Palm Beach shelter. You know, some I get to do like some kind of cool stuff every now and again. And when I saw Arson had gotten confiscated, it said that the dog, someone said the dog had bite work. So, okay, he's had bite work. So this is going to be a problem for like ABMR or Mad Rescue, because generally those two rescues don't take dogs that have done bite work. Or generally don't take dogs that have done bite work, which is
Yeah,
people
I
can.
mean, to some extent, it's kind of understandable. It's this is okay. Keep your thought for a moment, but this is a problem, and the problem is when you take a dog that has been trained and also has some problems, and you if you're responsible and you take it seriously, there is a certain level of uh, um, risk that you are taking that you shouldn't be
Uh-huh.
taking. Like you cannot be taking risk in this job that you are in. So, but strangely enough, how many actually trained dogs end up in the shelter?
Yeah, very few. None, none. Well, very. Yeah, I think those are probably the proper numbers you're talking about, 1 or 2%. Those dogs are not ending up. And that's another thing I want to touch about. It is in a little bit about training, but first let me tell you about Arson. So the woman's dog who had helicoptered this dog and had bite work. So now I've got a problem. Here was a Dutch Shepherd that ends up in the shelter. This had bite work. And what do you do with this dog that you know has had bite work? Uh, and so I went to go to the shelter to go evaluate the dog, and then another rescue nearby pulled it, but I happened to know who she was. I connected with her and I said, I want to take this dog and I want to have the dog evaluated by somebody who knows what they're doing. You know Mike Lorraine? I think you know Michael Lorraine. Mike Lorraine. Yeah. So Mike Lorraine is around here. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, I've got this. I didn't really know Mike. I might have talked to him once before or something, but I reached out to Mike Lorraine and I said, would you evaluate this dog? And so I got the dog from the rescue that had just pulled him, and we brought him up to Mike Lorraine, and we did a super cool video of him doing bite work with the dog, and posted that video. And when I posted the video, TJ Dobbins at Alpha Pack, Canine Alpha Pack, saw the video. He said, I'll take the dog. So Alpha Pack Canine trains, takes some of what they do is take some of the shelter dogs and train them to become police canines. So by seeing that video that I did with Mike Lorraine, TJ Dobbins took the dog up to Ohio, and today that dog is now a police canine. So that's like a super cool thing that you get to do, you know, one of the cool
Yes,
experiences.
that's exactly. Well, man, I mean, somebody like, again, I not gonna. I mean, there's extreme for three people that are actually against police having dogs, you know. So
I remember Zach George. Zach George did some obnoxious hack job video on police canines. That which was probably the most absurd thing I ever saw. I don't know. I don't know how many times he said the Nazis, you know, it just,
It's ridiculous, and the point is, do you want the whatever the if it's a criminal or whatever we're gonna find out, at least we can find out later because it just gets bit, it doesn't get shot. And a lot of times they don't even get bit. All they need to hear is come out, stop or I'll send my dog, and they're coming out.
we have a dog
Exactly,
here, come out.
exactly. Like,
Yeah.
you know, but it's a kind of, it goes in a higher level of, well, do we need control, and do we need laws to be enforced or no? And it's like, well, we're totally in a different planets on this, so I have no reason to talk to you about this, you know. What do you think about the dogs that come to you, and let's say you were not allowed to use the tools that you're using? How successful do you think you would be?
I think you could eventually be successful. It's just gonna things are just gonna take longer. But you know what? It's hard. You know, I have 6 dogs here right now, and strange dogs are coming in and out. I think one of the hardest things to do, if I had to be force free and bring in new dogs, you know, integrate them into the pack. You know, I don't have kennels. I don't really I have these kennels, but they're pretty much just for quick management. Like, they're not they don't sleep they sleep in my house. You know, I got 6 dogs around the house. They have to get along with each other. I have to be able to correct a dog. If he's staring down another dog that I just brought in from a shelter that's sitting in the kennel, you know, I have to be able to correct that dog because I'm never gonna be able to manage these dogs together if I can't correct somebody. So if I couldn't do that, then I couldn't take the dog, period.
Yeah, but
Like, if I
their
felt that I
argument would be, then you're not fit to even do this kind of work. That would be the
well, I don't care. Show me
right.
what you're doing with these
Exactly.
dogs. You know, show me what you're doing. So, uh, that would definitely get in the way. I mean, and the
Time
fact
is a very critical. I was gonna say important factor,
I was
but
just
time is the
I was
most
that's exactly
critical factor in the whole part of everything that we are doing with these dogs. It's about time. Everything is
100%.
like
This
a
is
clock
exactly where I
that's
was going.
ticking, and you have to be very consciously aware every single second that that clock is ticking.
Yeah. I have a full-time job. Like, I wouldn't be able to do, you know, uh, do what I do here if I didn't have a full-time job somewhere. So I have a full-time job. I have 6 dogs. I have a life also. I have things and responsibilities. There's only so much time in the day, and I don't have that much time. So I've got 3 fosters, 3 of my own dogs here. Eh, Time, there's just not enough, and that's it. So you have to be effective and move things along quickly. And if I thought that it affected my relationship with any of these dogs, well, you know, then maybe I'd have to think about it. But to the extent that I use corrections, not one of these dogs are intimidated by me, afraid of me. There's no fallout involved, and you know, so that's all just nonsense. And I think there are people who maybe never who are so afraid to correct a dog or so afraid to use a prong collar. Um, like, they believe that
Oh, it's
that's going
real
to
for
happen.
them. It's real. Just like I don't want to go into politics, but just like the, all the women shaving their heads and doing all these things after the elections, like I don't want to ridicule them. I really don't. It's very real for them. It's very sad.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a real feeling. So I only, I know what I know. I mean, I know through experience working with dogs, in and out, um, what works. And these dogs love me. I love them. And the fact that, I might put a prong collar on there and pop their collar. It doesn't even nothing. I mean, nothing. So,
Why do you think? Why
in
do you
terms of
think
how
it's
they feel,
such a gap, such a separation and animosity in between us?
between the force
Yeah,
free and
yeah,
sort of the
yeah.
balance training.
What is it?
I don't know. I think some people care more about how they look to other people than they care about the dogs. Uh, you know,
Because I would highly doubt if anybody, and again, that was a conversation I just recently had with Dylan Jones when he was here for his expert thing, and we were talking about something where you have a dog in front of you, and you have ideology that you're behind, and your ideology is failing, but there is something we can do. How do you where do you go at that point when you have that dog looking at you and you're standing for the ideology that's not gonna help? How do you justify that you're not gonna help the dog, or at least not gonna make an attempt to?
yeah, I don't think I don't think that they believe that using a prong collar I think they are convinced that they are doing the right thing. That if you go put this prong collar on, you're going to ruin the relationship, and I think they truly believe that.
Right, right. But I'm talking about like there is. It's not an exception. There is cases that are happening daily. It's like no, you literally have a dog in front of you, that it's his clock, his time is up, and you've done religiously, and you've searched for advice, and you've done all of your homework, and you say, well, we tried everything. And somebody says, well, but would you want me to try something that could work?
Yeah, no, we can't. It's not in the, we can't do that. It's against, uh, you're asking somebody who doesn't understand, who can't understand it himself. Right? I think you'll almost do anything you can. It's gonna, you
I
know,
would think that everybody would,
save the
yeah,
dog's life.
my guess is that everybody that is faced with this direct situation, that they are attached, that they have some attachment, even like I know, like I have, it's like, no, it's actually your dog. And you can euthanize it, or you can try something. Just like somebody is dying of cancer, do you try horse medicine or not? What do you do with your kid that's dying from cancer and everybody gave up? You would try. I would.
I think there's a very powerful psychological thing that happens, and it's us versus them. Uh, that we are genetically, or our minds are pre-programmed to have an us versus them. This is a very and it's a very powerful, yeah, it's a very powerful emotion, and it probably maybe overpowers
But what I'm saying is,
common
I agree
sense.
with you, but what I'm
I
saying is
I I
it should break in those situations when they're directly affecting it's your child, or it's your spouse, or it's your dog, and you have to make a choice to try something alternative and give it a go, or don't.
Yeah. Well, maybe in private they try it, but in public they don't. Or, you know, by the way, yeah, you get so wedded to an idea that we are absolutely committed to something. I think that plays a part in it too. That we get sold something, or we believe something. It's very hard to make that flip in your brain to say, I'm going to try something else. We sell ourselves, you know, unconsciously when we sleep, we sell ourselves on these ideas that we've convinced ourselves of. And then it becomes very difficult to undo that.
What are things that you would give, like some advice to people like yourself that are stepping into the type of work that you do? What kind of advice would you give them?
In terms of
Like how to, I mean, yeah, and how to, like any of the kind of bullet points that you think you must know what you're getting into, and how to navigate through that whole. I mean, it's a very special niche of industry that you're in.
yeah, I can't even because I can't even explain what I necessarily do. I don't there's no job title for it. I don't have a job. I'm not a five I mean, I have a, job outside of this. Um, what I- my I think the first step that you make is you go to a shelter, pick a dog, meet that dog, and tell that and be that dog's advocate. Okay, that's where you start. One dog. You don't have to save anything after that. You go and you save this one dog. Okay, great. I'm going to save this one dog. Okay, how am I going to save this one dog? I don't have to save all those other dogs. Fine, he's a cute dog. He's my I'm going to I'm going to try to help this dog. Now, how do you do it? Okay, first thing is you gotta go meet the dog, play with the dog, evaluate the dog. What's the dog like? Get lots of pictures, lots of video. Okay. Then go home and stick it into any program, dump it all in there. You don't have to be a genius. Just dump the video in there, put some music to it, post it on Facebook, and ask people to share it. Share it with, and then share it with your friends, share it with a rescue, whatever. Contact the rescues. Hey, I just met this dog. Here's what the dog is like. Here's the video. Because this is what rescues need to see. They don't want a picture. They need a story. Here's the dog's story. This dog was found over here in the Everglades, dumped. It's got a broken leg. Tell this dog's story. Let other people know what the story is. Bring them into it. And then it gets them invested into the story. And then, so that you're just the advocate. Now, there's a good, maybe you'll find an adopter. Maybe somebody will see that because it's so easy to go to a shelter and adopt a dog. It's got all the shots. It's health checked, etc. It costs $50. So someone can go walk in and if they see that dog, it's a healthy, normal dog, walk right in and adopt it. If you post it, the right person sees it or a rescue sees it and they just or a foster who, oh, I can foster for this organization. You've got a real chance because otherwise there's a very good chance no one's ever going to see that dog. There's a very good chance of that. If you ta if and I would say, like, thing that I did, it really all sort of just folded as I just happened to pick a breed. It just happened to pick this particular breed, happened to become, an expert in this breed. People in rescue see me as an expert. Then they take you more serious, and it just kept growing. And a relationship with all. So I have a relationship with all the rescues who'll take one of these dogs. And not everyone. That's the other thing. Not everyone's going to take a Malinois. Most small rescues don't will not take will generally not take a Malinois. But they're at least smart enough to realize, okay, my foster can't handle that dog. Um, so, and then when that happens, then the rescues start contacting me. I have a Malinois. Can you help me? So sometimes they will end up with one anyway. Can you help me? Because now they know I have followers who are interested in Malinois. So they'll contact me and then I can say, absolutely, let me post your dog. So then you become this clearing point for this particular breed because you're the expert in this breed. There could be 100 of people like me all over the country doing this. There could be 10 more people doing what I do in Florida, let alone Texas and California. And I wish that people would just copy whatever it is I'm doing. There's a woman, Jennifer, she's out in California, East Valley. She's doing something similar to what I do, except I think she does it better. She's going in there and she's looking for high drive dogs, really in general. So Jennifer so every time she has a video, I make sure to share Jennifer's video uh, from the East Valley. So, and I don't want to just share pictures of a dog like this dog needs help. I want to share the video, the story. I want to follow the dog's journey from the shelter to the rescue or to the adopter. And I want people to follow me because they're going to get more than just a desperate dog and then the next desperate dog. I want them, I create, I'm trying to, because I'm trying to create a following of people interested in this breed, I want a reason for people to follow me. And you're going to follow the story as it unfolds. And that's kind of a cool thing or something different. So I always try to make sure I sort of close the circle with any dog. Here's the dog. I just met the dog. I post the dog. And the rest, then I start getting it, people interested. Oh, okay. They're gonna pull the dog. Send me pictures, send me videos. How's the dog? Oh, that went to the vet. It had a broken leg. It had this. What's happening? And then you have something I think that's interesting and worth following. So how do you so I don't have any, you know, I mean that's what I do. And then another thing is you start to meet the trainers. This is for the Malinois, I think, more important than anything. Because what's failing these dogs is that they're that first of all, the average trainer out there is pretty pathetic. Okay, who's generally out there training pet dogs. Yeah, they're going to be the force-free dogs or the force-free trainers. Um, they're pretty poor and they're not really equipped to train these dogs. Any trainer out there, oh, they're going to teach the dog to sit, staying down, whatever. But I think it's a different world, like the sport dog, the world, the protection world, the police world. Those are the trainers you want. People who learn from those people and learn from that group. That's who you want to train your dog. And those trainers are out there, but people don't know them. I don't know, they've got a card off of a Starbucks wall of some force-free trainer, and then they use them to train their high drive Malinois that they accidentally picked up from somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, kind of
So
like Victoria Stilwell when she had this whatever her show was with the police dogs, the night whatever it was, I can think of the name. It's total disaster. They had to have non-disclosure agreements just because it's just like they cannot say how silly and ineffective all of it was. You know what is another big problem that I have, it's that kind of puts people off, is some of the people that work in a shelter, some of the volunteers, some of the rescue groups, and people like yourself that actually are so frustrated and angry at people like myself. I've been breeding dogs since 1989. Like, I have bred a lot of dogs. In a lot of people, I am the reason why there is dogs in a shelter, because
Now, I want to talk about that because I
people
think
will buy a dog from me instead of going to the shelter and get a dog. And I don't think they're
first of all, I have a lot of DNA. I often do DNA tests on many of the dogs. Mad Rescue does them, so I see a lot of DNA tests. So I see their relatives, and I see who's related to who, and they'll show 30 different relatives, and you sometimes see where the dogs come from. So I've done that with quite a few dogs, and I've never seen a Vitosha dog or a dog that I could tell came anywhere from you. Your dogs are not ending up in the shelters, and they're not even breeding. I can't even see where there's breeding. I would expect that I would have seen maybe, but I don't see that. What I do see is I see many of the rescue dogs being related to each other, uh, that keep ending up. So there are some breeders, and I wish I could better figure out the puzzle. Where are these backyard breeders? Where, because that's, you're seeing relations in these dogs that came out of Miami. And then this dog that's over at Big Cypress and Rescue, and this one over at Mad Rescue is related. And I've messaged people, oh, where'd you get that dog from? Oh, it came down from here. But you don't see it really coming from the, now, that's number one. So your dogs aren't ending up there. Number two, I think it's critical that you have excellent breeders who really know what they're doing to keep the genetics of the dogs healthy. This is critical to have. So you absolutely need ethical breeders who are making sure these dogs are going to the right people, that the genetics are solid, so you need this, otherwise the breed is going to decline. Uh, so I have no problem with ethical breeders. Backyard breeders, on the other hand, the kind that you see down in Miami, the kind that you see that are selling dogs on Craigslist, because I see the females that have been breeding and overbred landing in the shelters, because that's when you're on there buying that $500 dog or four, this is what you're doing. All right. So I have serious problems with the backyard breeders. I have zero problems with excellent breeders who are doing the right thing. And if something goes wrong with the dog and are going to take the dog back and all that sort of stuff that a great breeder would do. In the rescue world, I think you're right. I think people are, I think many, hey, look, if you saw what some of these people see on a regular basis when you walk into the shelters, you could almost understand. But I don't think they have the perspective that I have, or at least, I operate in a different world, working specifically with Malinois. But if you look at these general rescue people who are, they're rescuing old mixed breeds and things like that. And I could just imagine they would be crazy about anyone breeding any dog ever. But I come from a different, I guess I have a different perspective working with
yeah.
this
And so
particular breed that have a particular purpose.
yeah, that's very well said. And but it goes even deeper than that. Some people get attacked simply, they're not breeders, they just wanted a purebred dog. And it's like, shame on you when there is so many dogs in the shelter. How do you deal with that one?
I if somebody, I don't, that doesn't, if somebody wants to spend the real money, spend actual money, yeah, as long as they don't go on Craigslist or buy it off these crappy uh, Facebook groups, you know, I'm not. Hey, listen, I don't I try not to get involved. I try to focus on what I do, not, not change what everyone else is doing. I if there's any influence that I try to have, it's to say, "Hey, look at these dogs. Foster one of these. This is awesome." That's where I try to, make any impact or influence anyone, to say fostering is actually pretty cool. To foster a Malinois is probably absolutely one of the coolest things you could do. To take a dog from and I would say this to gosh, I'd say this like to the trainers who are watching this. You know, we all they all had, many had demo dogs. All right, now they so they get a whatever, the kosher or East, German or European demo dog or whatever. Don't do that. Go to a shelter, get a Malinois from a shelter, use that as your demo dog. Because when you can walk in and say, because if I take a beautiful, incredible dog that I just bought and I paid $10,000 for, and I showed somebody, they'd be like, "Oh, well, of course he's that, he's a." But if you go to a shelter and you pull a dog and you teach a shelter dog to do sit, stay down, people are like, "Oh, that dog came from a shelter?" Yeah. I go to the mall, the mall around here, and, I walk, to socialize the dogs or just to teach so I go to the mall. Every time I go to the mall, somebody stops me and wants me to train their dog. And I'm saying, "I don't train dogs, I just do this is just shelter." It's like, "That's a shelter dog?" It's like, you be it's people are so impressed that you taught a Malinois that you got from a shelter how to heel.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you just put a very cool twist on this. Like it's really, I mean, it's a win-win situation, and it really
Yeah,
speaks,
it's like the perception that
and
people
it speaks
have.
volume for the trainer, because just as you said, it's not like this. Yeah, of course, it's a highly trainable dog and whatever. No, I'm not impressed. But
Yeah.
there is this
No, I
one.
got this guy from
I
the
love
shelter.
it. I
Yeah.
love it. Hopefully, people that do these demo dogs take that under consideration. That's a brilliant. I mean, even just for their business, for their marketing, it's far better than than doing something with, you know, it's just not as impressive. It's just not at all.
Yeah, I just got it from the shelter. Better yet, yeah. So if I mean, I could I listen, I'm a in my real in my other life, I'm a financial advisor. I don't train any dogs. I don't nobody pays me to train. I don't take I don't take money or anything from anybody. But I get message like almost every day to train a dog. If I was one day wanted to retire and become a trainer, it could happen like that because people see me with I make the silly videos and they're we play around with the dog. It isn't to show anybody how to train a dog. It's to show the dog, like, and that's really all my videos are about. But people think I'm some wonderful, they're people who don't, who think I'm some wonderful trainer because the videos I make, and yeah, I edit them a little bit, there's not,
That's one of
but
the things, like
I'm not
sometimes I
selling.
tell you, like with the, I mean, you've gone through my program, the training without conflicting, and a lot of times after the written test, the trainer has to do a practical, and they're like, well, I don't have the dog, and I'm waiting for a client, and that's what I would do. I'm like, why would you wait? There's dogs and dogs and dogs waiting for attention and interaction. Take it from the shelter, make it adoptable. Maybe you'll end up with the dog just because, as I said, you put the time, and time, that's what time does.
And these, you could do it so easy at so many of these municipal shelters that most everyone has it, where you could just walk in and shelter a dog. You don't have to get in, and you walk in and say, okay, I want to foster a dog. And yeah, great. Well, and they'll hand you a dog, you go home with the dog, and when you're done, you could take the dog back if you really. But after you put some training on the dog, then you can find a rescue pretty easily. Then you can contact any rescue and say, look, here's what I've done with the dog. Boom. The dog goes to a rescue. They'll find a home for it. Or you just put it, or I mean, even better than that, you post it, hey, I just trained this dog. We were just working with him, and post it on your Facebook. It's a great advertisement for your business. It that
It's
goes along.
better. I mean, it's really way better advertisement. In my book, I would be like, as a trainer, I would be far more impressed with you accomplishing something with a dog that everybody's given up on than having this highly trainable, specifically bred animal for something. It's just that's easy.
Yeah, it's so easy to train these dogs. Uh, it's so easy to train for any Malinois is easy to train. So if there's one, you got them from the shelter, but you look brilliant when you do it. To people who don't know, to outside people, to clients, they think you're brilliant because you trained a rescue Malinois, you know, and
You know what is a really big
it's
problem, at least for me, in the last, I'd say, 5 years? I mean, it's been there kind of lingering, but it's becoming more and more pronounced, and that's the going out of country and grabbing all these stray dogs and rescuing them from being stray dogs and sticking them in your apartment for 8 hours a day when they had a freedom, they had a life. Could they get run by a car? Sure. Did they eat or did they skip 2 days? Yeah, questionable. But
I don't know why, how, I don't know how we're importing. I don't know why we're taking these dogs. I think
I think
first
there
we
is
have
a
to
lot
fix.
of, there is again a little bit of a, I mean, there is some people that do it for just because it's kind of misguided, in my opinion, as I said, like you're taking the freedom away from a animal that really, really, really appreciates freedom. This is like the the ultimate abuse as far as I'm concerned. But um,
So when they come from a foreign country, you're
right,
saying the
right,
ones that come
right.
from a
And
foreign.
any of the
Okay.
stray dogs, like go to Greece, Bulgaria, whatever, any Eastern European, where the Turkey. I'm not talking. Okay, they're stuck in 20 of them in a cage, and they're gonna be meat. They're gonna be dinner. That's a different thing. But even then, it's
We
a
have to fix it. We have to fix our own problems
right,
first. Okay.
right,
Miami,
right.
go to Miami. I think there's some crazy number like 30,000 stray dogs in Miami. Okay. I don't know if that's true, but it's something like it's some absurd number. They have 700, last I heard something today. They have 700 dogs in Miami-Dade. They have the new shelter and they have the Medley shelter, which is the old shelter, and both are full. So it sounds high when I heard that number, but it's got to be at least 500 dogs. Then you've got a guy like Junior who's down at Redland Dog Sanctuary, who's got 100 dogs down there. And the dogs are being dumped all over the place down in the Redlands. Okay, let's fix this problem. Let's go to Texas. Let's go to California. And let's fix these problems before we start importing more
I
problems.
believe a lot of the imports, there is some scheme, there is some, like it's a money kind of laundry, like I don't know, there's something to do with that. I don't want to really open this, but there's got to be something, because it just doesn't make sense when you have, as you said, dog right here in your eyes, in your backyard, that you can do something with, and you're going out of your, like doing this crazy thing. Okay, now there is situations. I mean, there is different, like, who was the one? There was like this incredible story, and I know you would know it. The guy was running a marathon, somewhere. I don't know, was it China or was it somewhere in Sahara, whatever. I mean, it was like a long marathon, and a little dog got stuck with him and kept running. And the guy was like, okay, they're gonna give up and whatever. The dog never gave up. It just kept going, and eventually the guy was like, okay, I'm taking the dog. He takes the dog. He took the dog. The story ended up being really, I mean, it's a very happy ending, but from there, somehow the dog got lost because it was with somebody that they were just taking care of the dog temporarily, and he went on the street. And eventually social media exploded. I think, I want to say it's China, but I might be mistaken. But somehow they ended up finding the dog, and eventually, again, the dog came back and they took it back to the country. And it's just a beautiful story. But that's very different than
taking plane loads
right,
of
right.
loading up plane loads and bring them here when we're not taking care of the dogs that we have here. And the other thing that down in the idea of the stray dogs, when I was in Brazil, and the stray dogs seem very happy over there. The stray dogs I see down in Miami, I don't know if the conditions are different. We have mosquitoes, we have heartworm, we have infestations. When I see the dogs that come that are stray, taken from the Everglades, and they end up in the shelter, those dogs are in horrible shape. So these people who are dumping dogs down into the Everglades, the dogs are going to die. Those dogs, you're not giving some wonderful freedom to, because they end up with heartworm and infestations, and they end up dead. But down in Miami, that's like they're literally closed to intake. They don't want to euthanize any dogs, so they're literally closed to intake. And that's also, I think, Broward County and Palm Beach as well. For the most part, they're closed to intake. So now you just have more dogs populating the streets, and it's like it's a problem that's just getting, I think, worse and worse. I kept thinking there was hope, but I don't see any hope. So let's stop importing
Right,
dogs.
right, right. It's just not the right thing to do. Like, it's not the right thing. Jim, what do you think about how COVID played, or did it play a role in everything?
100% played a 100% played a role in this. A friend of mine used to have a car mechanic, and it was just shortly after COVID, and he calls up the car mechanic. He said, "Okay, I want to get my oil changed." He says, "Oh, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm a dog breeder now. You're looking for, so many people became dog breeders because for that brief window you could get ridiculous amounts of money. So I think there was an explosion of dogs, and then there was probably another boomlet, you know, and I think that was a big problem. Now, the other thing that happened is you had COVID dogs that were poorly socialized at that time, which are now behavior problems. So you have them ending up in the shelters because now and as people went back to work, um, so now you have a problem with that. So people have gone back to work. And then now you have dogs that weren't properly socialized that are problems. So they're going into the shelters. So COVID was it was a brief window where you had all these wonderful pictures of shelters being empty for, for a couple of months. And then it just didn't work. It just didn't
Yeah, that
last.
was recently. I actually downloaded it. It was somewhere on the news a couple of months ago. It was a really reputable, like a very good place in Colorado somewhere, a shelter, and they were in the local news talking about how they ended up with way more that they can chew on, and dogs that come in end up, I mean, clearly a lot of dogs that end up in a shelter, they come in with some issues. But instead of trying to rehab them, the issues get amplified, or they even add more to it, to the point that I know that even if they don't like to talk about, a lot of the shelters are kind of up the wall, like, okay, what do we do? How, like whatever you're telling us that it can work, and all the, again, going back to enrichments and all positive and all that, it's not really, we're not even closely trying to just manage, forget about improving their lives, but even maintain where they came in.
I don't think there's a real desire to fix the behavior of dogs in shelters. It's easier to say this dog is a behavior problem and to euthanize the dog because we're euthanizing dogs for space anyway. So it sounds a lot better if you're the administrator that we had to euthanize this. We tried everything. We tried, it was all, positive only. We did everything we're supposed to do, and we just couldn't fix this dog. So it's not our fault. We just had to euthanize the dog. So they really don't. My own opinion is they really don't care if they fix the dogs. It's just a good way. It's just a great way to show people, oh, look what we're doing. Here we are, and you know, yeah, here we are. We're doing everything, and we're rehabbing dogs. It's because it's just show. So yeah, well, show it with no, don't show it with the pink collar because that might look bad. And we don't really care anyway because we're going to euthanize. We have to euthanize them anyway. So it's better to euthanize a dog with a behavior issue and we couldn't fix it. Well, we tried. You know, so I know that sounds a little skeptical, but I honestly believe that's where we're at. We're not because if you fix the dog, where's he going? There's still not enough. There's still not enough space, and so
But like your idea, again, going back to that idea of a dog trainer having their demo dog, and that hits home for me because as a Malinois breeder, it's pretty much, I wouldn't say daily, but at least a weekly thing. Somebody's gonna be, hey, I need a puppy or a little bit of kind of younger dog. It's gonna be my demo dog for my business. That comes so frequently. The same thing would be, well, I'm going to this dog training school and I need a Malinois to learn with. And it's like, it would be so much cooler and really like you're doing something so cool, getting a dog from the shelter and going through this route with.
yeah. I mean, I would love to have a Vitosha dog. That would be so much overkill for me. I'm not in dog sports, and so that would be overkill for me. But oh my God, like the amount of 1 and 2 year old Malinois that show up in the shelters, fantastic, awesome dogs that show up routinely. I could get three probably right now at any of the shelters around here. Literally just walk in. Like I can't go on to Pet Harbor because I can't see it because there's only so many dogs I can have. But I know that if I go there, I'm going to play with the dog. Like that's a cool dog. Okay, right? May not. It's going to have a different. I can't tell you what the dog's going to be like. That's one of the cool things about these dogs. They're so different from each other. Well, anyway, that's another topic. But yeah, I don't see how more trainers aren't just walking and getting it. And
Hopefully we give some ideas to people because that's like I totally, I and when I'm thinking, and most people that kind of follow me and know about me, they either know me as the defending electric shock collars or high level competition trainer, or in some of them I'm animal abuser and whatever. But I have a pet training business since like 2000. Yeah. I don't think I've ever done any demonstration with my competition dogs, which will blow anybody's mind if they see me do something. I mean, it would absolutely blow their minds when you, regardless where you are, if you see this kind of level of training, like in close up, it's very different, very different. But it would never cross my mind to bring one of those dogs to demonstrate what I can do to get a client to come and trust me with their dog, because it's not about that.
Well, well, plenty of I see it all the time, and people like sometimes get reached out, looking for a demo dog, or this one's looking for. I thought this was going to be a demo, but it didn't work out. Like, well, how could it not work out? It's a Malinois. How whatever. Uh, I think. Well, again, I think even if you don't want a demo dog, go get a Malinois out of a shelter and train it, work with it, and just get it adopted. Just put it out there. That's like what a great business card. Who wants to see the typical pet trainer ad? Nobody. But if you're putting out a dog for adoption that you just adopted from the shelter, you know, you're going to get shares. Someone's going to share that video. Please share the video. So, I mean, I'm not telling anyone how to market their business because I'm not a
No,
dog
but that
trainer.
is some marketing, and it's brilliant. I mean, I
Hmm.
totally, and
I
I'm
because I
sure a
just
lot of people.
Yeah, I just know what happened to me. Like I could professionally train dogs and get enough business just because of what I do. And I thought, well, geez, if I ever did that, I know the direction I'd go with it. Uh, and then you're doing something good. And and even if you don't do that, just I think that I think this idea that these shelter dogs are broken is uh, i- i- is so exaggerated. And I think it's exaggerated because the average most dog trainers are subpar. So it's a lot easier to say, oh, the dog was broken. It's a shelter dog and the dog was broken. A really good trainer is going to be fine with the overwhelming vast majority of dogs from a shelter. A poor trainer, yeah, well, okay, that dog's broken. So I think that's what fuels the narrative. A lot of bad trainers who just it's easier to blame the dog because the dogs that I'm not screening dogs for the most part. I go to a shelter. If I've got space, the dog's going to come home with me, and I am not having issues with the vast overwhelming majority of dogs. Just walk in and they're just like, okay, yeah, you're gonna take a dog. Hey, Freya, as Freya's digging holes. As uh so I think it's overstated. And I think the other thing that happens is there's a bias, you know, that 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 crazy story, that story of a shelter dog that did this or that, something bad happened. Those stick out. Those stick out in our mind. But all of the boring stories that I have, well, I got this dog from the shelter. He was awesome, got adopted. He's having a wonderful life. Okay. That doesn't resonate. There's nothing interesting about that. But that story is over and over and over and over again. And then, yeah, there's the other crazy stories, like even Tina. Tina is an exception. It's such an exception. And the only reason, maybe we should talk about
Yeah,
Tina a little
Tina,
bit.
by the way, guys, is the little black dog that I'm sure even by name you know her, but she's like one of my high like the most problematic child probably, and in terms not of killing people or anything like that, but just having just demons in her head for a long time, like extreme OCDs. And anybody that hasn't seen the videos of her, highly recommend them. They're there on YouTube. But yeah,
The only reason that you saw Tina uh, is because she was a dog that was completely different from anything I'd seen up to that point, and to and to this day. And so I was at a loss when I met this dog to figure out what am I looking at in this insanity that I'm seeing. I couldn't. So I sent it. I sent a little video that I had, and we put it to Crazy Train, and I sent it to Ivan and other trainers to say, tell me, what do I see here happening? So I want to make sure that people understand that Tina is not the typical shelter dog. She's the exception, the unusual exception, because I don't want to perpetuate this myth of broken shelter dogs. But Tina is that broken shelter dog. That one in probably 100 that really is broken. And the only reason why you have that dog is because I sent a there's something with this dog, and I sent it to you for that purpose. So going back to Tina, I met Tina. I was evaluating other dogs, and somebody came to me and she begged me to go meet this dog, and she had that, and so she said, so I said, okay, I'll go meet Tina. We were at the shelter, and so we went to go meet Tina, and I said, okay, let's go to the play yard. Oh, no, we can't go to the play yard with this one. She's a problem. We have to go to this other area, away from the shelter because she's just nuts. And Tina, so we get Tina out of there. She's bouncing off the walls, and her eyes are darting all over the place, and she's licking her lips, and looking the lights, and just so I'd never quite seen that before. Anyway, she takes us on our little walk, a run to this special Tina's special place. And Tina goes charging into the sawgrass after she gets there and just starts tearing at the sawgrass, the weeds and the bushes, and she's just going
And it's
bananas.
not playing, it's anger and frustration multiplied by 500.
Yeah. Yeah. It was I'd never seen it. I'm like, what am I seeing here? And that's when I sent it to you. I never expected your reply, and I never expected to say, I'll take, you asked a couple questions, how old, whatever it was. Um, I'll take the dog. I, 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 I almost fell off my chair at the time, and I said, okay. So whatever, we had to arrange it, and
It's a
um,
beautiful story. Her story, it's actually a beautiful story I didn't know, like I didn't know um, the reason I took her, it was very much the same reason as you were puzzled, and I saw something very, very extremely disturbing in her. And then there was that question.
I didn't recognize disturbing until I had her in the car, until I picked her up at the shelter and I put her in the car. And I didn't want to put her in a kennel in the car because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to get her out of the kennel when I got to you in Tampa 4 hours away. I'm buckle her into a harness because I do not want to be faced with trying to get this dog out of a out of a kennel. So I buckled her into the back into a harness in the back seat, and we began our journey. And it didn't take long for her to step on the buckle and for me to have a loose Tina in my car. It happened multiple times, and she was bouncing off the walls every time a truck came by, anything came by. And she was absolutely possessed, I think is the best word. Like I don't think people understand how crazy this dog was. And that's when I realized it when I was driving over to you. I thought, shit, what have I done?
You
What have I done?
when you came in, you were like, I'm ready to take her back and put her down because I don't see what else we should do with her.
No, no. What I said to you, what I said to you, I said, because all right, I had a conversation with myself the entire way. I said, okay, um, there's no way he's going to take this dog. Like the look in her eyes, she was absolutely crazy. I felt horrible for this dog. I said, there's no way this guy, and I didn't know I didn't really know who you were since I didn't do sports and things like that. So I'm driving this dog and I'm thinking, this is a problem. There's no way he's going to take this dog. I just committed to this dog to get this dog out. I cannot go back to the shelter with this dog because it'll be euthanized or it'll be stuck in the shelter. And I will not going to put this dog back into that shelter to live in the conditions that it did for any longer because that dog was suffering in that condition. I am not capable of handling this dog at that time. At that time, I was not capable of handling that dog at this time. And I said, and nobody had adopted that dog. So that dog's time was running out. There was no rescue who was going to take the dog. Nobody wanted to adopt the dog. I couldn't handle. And so it's the first time I thought, I think I have a choice to make with this. If he doesn't take it, what am I going to do? Am I going to euthanize it there? What am I going to do? And that was really a watershed moment for me to try and help a dog and then realize, holy shit, I'm over my head deep. And so I said, I went there and I finally dropped the dog. I get to you and I said, look, I now I kind of understand what I'm looking at now, having spent 4 hours with the dog. But I said, if you can't work with this dog, I will come back in 2 weeks and I will euthanize her myself. And you said, she's not dangerous. I think she's going to be okay. My heart, I just, oh, what a relief. What a relief. I drive home, I think, oh boy, I don't think I'm going to see that. I don't know what's going to happen here. The next day, you're on like, well, I got this dog. This is a problem. And I'm like, wow, son of a bitch. He put that right out there, right away the next day. Like, didn't hide it, said, I got this dog. I don't know what we're going to do, but let's figure it out.
It was an emotional roller coaster for me too, because I was genuinely very sad for her. Then, as a trainer, I was like, okay, this is a challenge, but there are some moral and there's some ethical decisions here to be made. Like where are we going? You know, what really can be done and how far I want to go before we it was a toss up in all along. It was a toss up.
Yeah, you were pretty clear about that, that like, can I fix it? What am, like this was never, you never looked at that and said, oh yeah, I've got this taken care of. Um, you were in all your early videos, you were pretty much like figuring it out. Like, okay, how are we figuring out the puzzle? That's
Some of the
I've heard you
videos
use that
that some,
expression
like I
before.
tell you, like for everybody listening, because even though they have some of you guys have seen videos of it, like the first few days or week, I was just trying to see what do I have. I mean, what is going on? I mean, it was like it's totally insane. So here I am in my training room. She's off leash, and she is just licking the floor. And I have a big training room, and she's just licking it in this, like, I've never seen obsessive compulsive behavior like this. Then going through the walls, then all of a sudden realizing that the fans are going and making shadows, and then it was raining, so outside she's just attacking like anything. There was none of the behaviors was even goal oriented in any way. And as I'm making the video, I'm like, okay, she has to, I mean, she has to just somehow wear herself out and stop. And as I'm filming, there is a timer, right? And I'm watching, and I'm like, okay, we're 50 minutes on this madness. I have to stop her. And that happened in few situations, just for me to understand the depth of possession that she it was really, 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 really just scary, sad.
You are bringing back memories of that drive, that 4-hour drive to Tampa. It was the worst thing I ever did. I thought, what have I done? What have I done? And I've got this dog in my, and that's exactly what she was doing. Looking up at looking up at all the lights that are flashing by, and with these bug eyes in her head. And I'm like, holy cow. And she just bouncing off the walls, as I'm driving. I say, I don't know how people, I want to say, you know how people drop dogs into these Everglades? But I'm telling you, that dog had me like bananas as she was breaking loose and was going crazy. Like I could see it. Couldn't see it, but I could almost see like, holy cow, this is 4 hours of this to you. And that's how I realized, wow, what a terrible mistake I've made. I am so over my head on this dog. And and like to think that I have to am I gonna have to euthanize this dog? Probably, it's probably the right thing to do because I couldn't see myself addressing that. And when I so I don't know if I don't fast forward, but when I saw you with her several months later, and I thought, holy cow. That's what I said. Okay, I want to know what everything that guy knows. Whatever he did to make her to fix this or to manage, I want to know. I mean, that's when I became one of your biggest fans. When I saw what you did to that dog. If people only saw what I saw or you saw, like you can explain it to them, but until you've been there, um, I've never seen a dog like that to this day. I never saw him before.
Yeah,
So
I'm kind of, I don't want to, I feel like I'm ready to take on something similar like her, although I don't even think there is going to be ever anything like her. That's just extreme.
I I've never seen another Tina. I've never I I've seen a lot of dogs. There's I've seen dogs that look like her, but I haven't seen a problem dog. Quite, I see aggressive dogs. You know, that's something I'd like to do better with a really aggressive dog. But I don't know if what the problem with aggressive dogs are? There's too many good dogs. There's too many good dogs that need help. Um, that you could spend some time doing some just like basic training and get adopted. And then to invest time into there's tough decisions in rescue. Like you almost have to just let them go. You almost have to let the aggressive ones go because there's just not enough adopters.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's the heartbreaking part of what you're doing and what anybody in this area of work is going through. It's this there are decisions to be made daily, and a lot of times those decisions are really heartbreaking.
I thought I had a dog almost adopted, and then the dog freaked out, and they were getting ready to spay or neuter it or something, and the dog, I don't know, the day before just went after one of the vets or something, vet techs or something like that, and I had to tell the person, hey, look, this is what happened, and the person backed out, and the shelter was like, listen, we think we're going to put the dog down. It's asleep right now, and
A lot of the almost with all behavior problems, the unfortunate thing is that it's always just a little bit too late by the time the pet owner realizes that they need help. They have let it go for too long, which makes it, in some cases, very, very difficult to make that change. If pet owners were just a little more acting a little more on timely manner, a lot of problems can be stopped, like really controlled. But by the time somebody says, okay, well, I have a problem, and you start to gather the history of the dog, and the history is going for not for a month, not for 6 months, but for 3 years, and it's progressively going to the point where now where are we going? I wish that pet people, can recognize those a little sooner, but that's just a wishful thinking. That just never will happen.
Pet owners, the average pet owner, the average pet owner is so poor, is so bad at understanding dogs. It's absolutely shocking. And the average adopter is it's just idiotic what happens. And it's heartbreaking because you'll hear about a dog that got adopted, a Malinois that got adopted, and just something stupid happens. They do something dumb. The dog nips them, and the dog goes back to the shelter and gets euthanized. Just, you know, oh, I don't know. I reached into so they just get the dog home from the shelter. The dog is on edge, doesn't know what's going on. And the dog was hiding in his crate, and I reached in and I grabbed his collar to pull him out, to like do dumb things. And also the dog will turn around and nip them. Well, the dog's aggressive. Like on the day that the dog got home, and they'll reach in, they'll grab the collar, or they'll do something dumb, and then boom, it's a death sentence for the dog. And they'll just do stuff like that. Oh, well, the dog's aggressive. Just like,
I think another,
hold on one second.
I mean,
Alexa, turn on gazebo lights.
there we go. I was gonna think we gotta stop the podcast. Beautiful. So another interesting problem with this whole adoption process is most often than not, the shelters are like, okay, there is this facade. I wouldn't say it's facade. I mean, they are truly trying to scan and see if the home is.
They're trying to
if
get
the home is
dogs,
good.
the shelter, the municipal shelter. They are trying to get the dog out.
Exactly.
That's it. Now the rescues are different.
But even in the shelter, even though they seem like they're very strict and they're making sure that the dog's gonna be, that the owners are capable and so on, they do a very poor job of giving some help and some instruction of how to handle any dog, regardless of good or bad or how big of a problem or no problems. What do you do in the first week or 2 weeks or a month when the dog comes from shelter environment to your house?
If I had a business, or one of the things they should do, every dog should have a dog collar with a telephone number on it, and there should just be one business out there, and their specialty is helping. When you're having a problem with a dog, because most of the problems you see are they just happen over and over again. So you need a hotline. Hey, this is what this is what happened. And so that, and then real trainers are on the other end, really helping you to keep that dog. One of the things that I do, is when a dog gets adopted, whether it's from the shelter or the rescue, is and I'm involved with the dog, is people message me all the time. Oh, I had this issue. Like, I had a guy called me the next day after he got a dog. He's like, "Oh, this dog has been crazy. He was barking all night." And and every time the dog barked, I went in there, I gave it a treat, and then it shut up for a little while, and I'd go back to bed and he'd start barking again. So I'd go in, I'd give it another treat. And I was like, all right, well, congratulations. You just trained the dog how to bark and call you. And like, this is what so this is what they're doing. Okay. You got to say, okay, stop doing that. You're teaching this dog, you're rewarding this dog. Uh, uh, bark, I'm coming, I'm gonna give you a treat. That's what you just train the dog to do, not to be quiet.
Right. Yeah, no. Like definitely some kind of lifeline can be of very, very helpful, very, very helpful. But I'll tell you, sometimes when I am just need to check out, and just for entertainment purposes, I would go on social media or YouTube and I would watch some of those hotlines and ask me anything kind of trainers that start just so bluntly just giving advice, and most of the time is the worst advice possible, only to demonstrate their knowledge and maybe follow certain narrative, being balanced, being force-free, whichever camp they are. But some of the advice and some of those people I find extremely dangerous, because it literally for me is like, okay, I'm having this crystal ball and you're asking me a question. I'm going to tell you exactly how dangerous your dog is and how you suck. Or it's like, no, like this is such a dangerous advice, and you're dealing with people that really are calling for help, and you have zero information. You're just sucking from your fingers something to make yourself really big expert of dog training. So there is a danger of those things, and I watch them just for really, sometimes it's just very entertaining when I'm not looking at it as from that point of view of the person that needs the help. Because the help that is provided, it's really, there is no help. It's about me being, I know everything, and I'm going to tell you, before you even ask the whole question, I'm going to tell you how wrong you are or what you should do. And it's just as bad as the dog going to the veterinarian, and it's like, oh yeah, let's put him on fluoxetine, let's psychotropics, because he's a bad dog anyway. I don't know. It's a tough one, but if there was a person that would do this kind of lifeline, that it's not about them looking good, but actually sincerely trying to help and not following an agenda and say, well, no, you've been training it because you're using.
Thing is, you're going to end up with, if you're dealing with the municipal shelter and politics and people vote, and you're going to end up with force-free. I mean, that's.
But even the other way around, Jim. I mean, even it's like, oh no, you need structure, and let's just hammer him and let's just show him who's who. It's like, how do you know? Just because somebody is telling you something, you cannot take this for face value and just all of a sudden write a whole prescription of, this cannot be more wrong.
I think the value of trainers is underestimated, is completely underestimated and unappreciated by the average individual. This has to change, and this has to change. I grew up, in the 1970s. We didn't, I guess we were sort of a lower middle class. Nobody had trainers. You had a dog, it was good or bad. It just went to the shelter, or it didn't, or it was just the bad, the only trainers, Lassie, a TV, a dog, on TV, Lassie might have a trainer, but that was like so out of this world that someone can train a dog to even sit her down. They were just around. It has to get to another level where people have to appreciate what trainers are actually capable of doing. What a good trainer is capable of doing. And there are too many bad trainers that I think are giving the good trainers, like a guy like Dylan Jones, who's next level. There are too many average, mediocre, and nobody can tell. It's hard for the average individual to tell the difference between that average, mediocre, low, pet smart trainer to another. The pet owner can't tell. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is spotlight like exceptional trainers. So because I think it's so important for this breed. So one of the things I want to do is find really good trainers and meet them and videotape them with the dog. Like I did something recently with a guy, Eric Good. I'd heard about Eric Good. I said, "Oh, who is this guy?" I looked into him a little bit, and he trains for the Fort Lauderdale police department. So I reached out to Eric. I said, "Eric, I'd like to meet you, talk to you a little bit, take some video." So I made a video. These are an exceptional dog. Malinois is an exceptional dog. They need an exceptional trainer. Boom. To I get to promote other trainers because I don't care. I'm not competing with anybody. I'm not doing I just want what's right for this breed and for this dog. So I get to do stuff that other trainers, everyone's trying to, you know, promote themselves. I don't have to promote myself at all, but I can promote others who are out
No,
there.
no, that's super
And
cool.
and
I'm kind of laughing a little bit because you surprised the hell out of me with one of the videos. Because of course I watch your videos and I share whenever I run into something to try to help out. But there was one, you actually had Bambino doing ring sport with your rescue dogs.
oh yeah, yeah,
And I mean,
Bambino.
he's like
Yeah.
top of the line decoy in ring
Okay,
sport.
this is an
And
exact
yes,
example that people have the ability to have a guy like Bambino, downright, uh, downright. Uh, I'm sorry, I forgot Bambino. I forgot downright. It'll come to me. Uh, People have a chance. He's right in my backyard. The people around here could train with that guy. Like, that's phenomenal. Okay. And they don't know, or they go to the PetSmart, or they can go to the PetSmart and they don't know the difference. They don't know who Bambino is, and they don't know who the PetSmart is. So what do they know? So if I can promote somebody like Bambino or Eric Good or my friend John Narditsky or any of these trainers, and a lot of these guys help me too,
no, but
that
like I
it's
mean,
sometimes I
him
haven't.
for example, he's like my go-to decoy when I'm doing ring sport. In fact, he's like we have a bunch of sessions already scheduled for like December and whatever. And then to see you playing with your dogs with the high of the highest level expert trainers in doing this stuff, it's just so cool to see. It was I cannot even imagine how I didn't even message you on this one.
And he was great, Bam, and he's the reason because I had that dog Storm that came out of Miami, was just a super solid, strong, drivey dog. And you actually played with Storm when I came to one of your sessions. You played with Storm because Storm, I believe, I said this dog can be a police canine. I like, and that's a dream for I think any one of these rescue dogs to and but I needed to promote him a little bit. So I knew Bambino, I could take this dog over to Bambino. So Bambino did a session with Storm. It's phenomenal. It just was phenomenal. Look, it was such a cool video. So I posted that video, and TJ Dobbins over at Alpha, he saw the video. There was one where the dog kind of went in, boom, fell over, rolled over, jumped up, came back in again. And TJ saw that. He's like, I'll take that dog. So he went up to Ohio, trained to become a police canine, and today is a canine in Indiana. And that was because of
Yeah, and you
Bambino.
gotta
That
give
was
it. I
because
mean, him and Kim, I mean, very cool people, and not just them. It's just anybody that it's in this high level sport training. It kind of goes both ways. I mean, I admire that you seek this kind of knowledge and you get excited because it's definitely exciting, but also for this type of people that are literally, I mean, they're like the high end sport, like really, really, they know their craft. Coming down and saying, oh, sure, I'm going to do some cool stuff with Jim and his rescue. I mean, that's admirable, you know?
absolutely, you know, that's if there's a secret that if there's a secret that I have, it's not that I'm a good dog trainer or great at rescue or anything like that. It's that I'm humble enough to say to anybody, I have no idea. Can you help me? And all these guys like Eric Good or John Narditsky or Bambino or you, uh, boom, come right up and say, yeah, I'll help you out here. So then if I can promote, and so I like to in the video say, okay, this is such and such trainer, because I would love nothing better that the people who I respect, because I'm only going to people who I respect, who I think are really good. So then I get a chance to promote to help promote them. And I hope they get some business from helping me. So that's another thing I'd like to continue to do, to meet exceptional trainers, highlight them, because these dogs need exceptional trainers and not your typical run of the mill. They need so
No,
that's
and that's
the sport
difficult
trainers, the
to kind of,
protection.
in my eyes, it's really silly. It's very, very simple to see high quality training and proven trainer versus somebody that has tons of followers and likes, and they're doing it for the wrong reason, very much for the wrong reason. But there is a huge confusion. It's incredible, the confusion of how people are totally lost of who is who. And somehow
Yeah,
you're
they have no way
managing
to they
this.
they have no way
You're
to tell.
managing this.
They have
You are really on the right track of whatever you're doing, research or it's intuition or whatever it is, but you're making good choices.
Yeah, well, it's yeah. I mean, here I am, like I said, relatively new in the dog sport world, but I've gotten to meet guys like you and Bambino and all these guys like Mike Lorraine, just people who are just the best in Florida and around, and that's been super cool to be able to do that, because of this special breed, uh, you know, that I've been just I just dumb luck sort of fell into whatever it is that I
Wouldn't
do.
be nice to just all of us collaborate and not fight about stupid, oh, prong color is bad, oh, this is whatever. Like
Yeah. Uh, and I try to keep my head. I try not to get involved with the politics and the rescues, or the back and forth. I just do my own thing, and I'll use my prong collars. I'll do what I think is right. I'm not afraid to,
well,
show
because you're
anything.
staying grounded and
And
you are
nobody, but
thinking about the dog in front.
nobody, but I'm, but I also realize I'm fortunate because I have a different outside business job that pays me. So nobody owns me. I don't can't no one can go ahead, shut me down, shut my Facebook. Who cares? You're not gonna no one can do anything to me. So I'm just gonna keep, but I don't know how to have big following or some, but no rescues. Um I tell you one thing I do want to touch upon is anything that I do is so much of it is because of the rescues like Sylvia, like Mad Rescue, like ABMR. All of these rescues are really what does the heavy lifting, um, in most of this. So I would say to anybody, the easiest thing to do is, hey, fill out a foster application with any of these organizations. Big Cypress German Shepherd Rescue in Naples, or Sylvia, or Mad Rescue, and there's tons of other great rescues all over the place. Foster a dog. That's super easy to do. They pay for the medicals. Um, they'll find an adopter, and train the dog. So you got to foster it, get a Malinois.
I think that's a good
Yeah.
way to 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 even wrap up our conversation. Like the message really is help one dog in any way you think you can, but you can. For sure, there is something you can do to help one dog. And maybe you will like it, maybe you will not. But imagine if everybody helps one dog.
Will you help one dog? You spend a few weeks or a couple of months with one dog. You have given that dog another 10, 15 years of an amazing life because you took a few weeks, a couple of weeks, then some like I know there are dogs all over the place that are living lives because I took them for a couple of weeks and I had a great time with them. And then when that dog leaves, all right, you're gonna tear up. It's gonna be sad, but within a couple of weeks, that dog is already bonded to the next person. And you're gonna go meet that dog, and the dog's like, sorry, I'm with him. That happened to me, and that was really a relief. And I always thought, oh my God, these dogs, I'm the only person who can take this dog as part of my family. No, they move on, and then they click to the next guy. And then I had a dog. I wheeled out of Miami-Dade with broken legs after it was hit by a car, took care of this dog, it lived in my house for months and months, took him to the vet, lived with my I went to see that I met that dog 6 months later. That dog didn't want anything to do with me. He was like, "I'm with this family now." And I thought that was beautiful. I really did. Because I'm like, "Okay, I feel better about all those other dogs that I worried about."
I
So,
think we wrap this up. I wanna really, I don't know. I really admire your passion and just who you are as a person for the dogs,
no,
man.
thank you.
And
Thank you,
that's
Ivan.
the only
Thank you,
reason
Ivan.
that I wanted to have the conversation, and hopefully your story inspires people, and hopefully, as I said, everybody helps one dog at one point in their life. The what you get back from this, it's something very special, and I think you drove that point tonight. So um,
Thank you. Thank you. I wondered if I was had 20 minutes of stuff to say, so
it's
I'm a little
perfect
surprised.
conversation, my friend.
Um,
Hopefully I see you
for
sometime
everything.
soon,
I
and
hope so. And
I'll send you some.
I would have loved to come up because you've created a very special place over in at your
Doors
facility.
open always.
You got it.
All
You
right, my
got it.
friend.
You
Take
got
care.
it. Cheers. All right. Bye bye.